It's time for my favorite time of day, story time. Let's sing our song together. Oh, I want to read with somebody. I want to read a book with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Okay, while we read our story, let's make sure that we're controlling our body so we can stay safe and grow our brains. Hands and feet to myself, and everyone turn on your listening ears. Make sure you're sitting on your bottom. Okay. This is the front cover of the book. On the front cover, there's lots of important information. What's written on the front cover that tells us the name of the story? It's the title. Let's sing our song. The title is the name. The title is the name. Every book has a name. The title is the name. What else is written on the front cover? What's the name of the person who writes the words? The author writes the words. Author writes the words. And who draws the pictures? The illustrator. Illustrator draws the pictures. Good job, friends. Kiss your brains for knowing what the title, the author, and the illustrator is. The title of this story is What is a Scientist? The author is Barbara Len and the illustrator is Carol Kraus. Friends, a scientist is somebody who does science. We do science in our classroom when we have Learning Lab. Remember, science is learning about the world, exploring the world. So I bet a scientist is a person who learns about the world. Let's read this book and find out what is a scientist. A scientist is a person who asks questions. We know about questions. We ask questions every day in Author's Chair, don't we? Remember, a question is when you want to know more information. A scientist is a person who asks questions and tries different ways to answer them. This is a picture of a girl named Hannah. Hannah wonders about fruits and vegetables. Hannah asks a question. Here's her question. Are there this many peas in every pea pod? Asks Hannah. A scientist learns from her senses. We know all about the 5 senses, don't we? Friends, we learned about the 5 senses in Unit 6 when we were learning about healthy bodies and healthy minds. The 5 senses are how you experience the world. Your sense of sight is one, your sense of smell, your sense of taste, your sense of hearing, and your sense of touch. Those are the 5 senses. A scientist uses the 5 senses to learn about the world. Cammie and Tiara play with a mixture of water and cornstarch. They try to decide if it is liquid or solid. When I squeeze it, it feels like a solid. If you feel something, you are using your sense of touch. When I squeeze it, it feels like a solid, but it drips like a liquid, observes Tara. A scientist notices details. A detail is something small. That means a scientist notices little things. Nate examines seeds inside vegetables. There are actually 2 kinds of seeds in the cucumber. The small ones are clear, discovers Nate. Nate was looking at the little things about the cucumber. He looked very closely to see the details. A scientist draws what she sees. We draw things all the time, don't we? We draw every day in journaling, and sometimes when we go outside and learn in the garden, we draw scientific drawings. Friends, do you remember when we all collected a leaf from the garden and we drew what we saw? That means you were all being a scientist. A scientist draws what she sees. Samantha shows how 2 liquids mix. The red drops bead up inside the yellow liquid, observes Samantha. I notice in this picture Samantha is drawing what she sees. She has a red marker to draw the red liquid in the jar. I wonder what else the scientist does. Let's keep reading to find out. A scientist writes about what happens. We know how to write, don't we? We write letters and words in our journal every day. Tim records his observation. That means Tim is writing what happened. The checker and pencil landed at the same time, but not the feather, writes Tim. What else does a scientist do? A scientist makes comparisons by measuring. Ooh, friends, we know the word comparison. To compare means to say how something is the same and how it is different. We compare shapes a lot in our classroom, and we compare sizes of things a lot in our classroom. A scientist makes comparisons by measuring. We know how to measure too, don't we? We use tools to measure. We use a ruler to measure how long something is. We use a thermometer to measure if something is hot or cold. And we use a scale to measure weight, how heavy something is. So in order to be a scientist, you use tools to measure and make comparisons. You use tools to tell how things are the same and different. Friends, I think you are all scientists because I think that these are things we do in our classroom. What are these scientists doing? Amelia and Corey are measuring weights. What do I use to measure weight? What do I use to tell if something is heavy, how much it weighs? A scale measures weight. This scale looks different from the scale we have in our classroom, but this is still a scale. Corey and Amelia are using a scale to measure weights. Amelia, this side of the balance is higher because it is lighter, demonstrates Corey. A scientist must count exactly. We are so good at counting, aren't we, friends? Let's count together. Let's count to 10. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kiss your brains for counting to 10. You are all scientists. Scientists have to count. Emily and Stuart count how many drops of water they can fit on a penny. We've put on 23 drops of water so far, says Emily. Ooh, Emily and Stuart counted to 23. We just counted to 10 together, but I bet we can all count to 23. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Good job! Kiss your brains for counting to 23. Let's keep reading our story and learn more about what is a scientist. A scientist looks at objects carefully to decide how to sort. We know about sorting too. We learned about sorting when we read the story Isabel's Treasure Tub. And we do sorting in centers at investigation location. You sort buttons sometimes. Friends, we can sort things based on how they are the same. If you have the buttons, maybe you will put all the green buttons together, all the orange buttons together, all the purple buttons together. That means you are sorting by color if you put the same color together. You can also sort the buttons by shape. Maybe you put all the circle buttons together, all the star buttons together, all the square buttons together. You can sort by shape. You can sort by color. To sort means to put things that are the same together. Let's keep reading and find out how these scientists are sorting. Zoe and her group organize the shoes and boots in different ways. You guys, I think this boot is longer, decides Zoe. A scientist designs experiments to test predictions. Ooh, can you say prediction? Let's clap that word. Prediction. Count it. Prediction. A prediction is a guess about what happens next. We make predictions all the time, don't we? Jessie plants seeds at the top of one cup and the bottom of another. I think the seeds that I planted at the top will grow better than the ones at the bottom, predicts Jessie. A scientist experiments by trial and error. Mick uses a foam meat tray to make a flying object. I added a blob of clay and some paper clips on the front, and now my meat tray flies farther, explains Nick. What else does a scientist do? A scientist thinks logically. Shivani explains how she learned about the compass directions. When I ride home at the end of the day, the sun is going down over there, so that must be west, figures Shivani. A scientist keeps trying over and over. You do that, don't we? In our classroom, what's rule number 5? Rule number 5, try my best. We always try my best, don't we? That is something that a scientist does. And even if something doesn't work out the first time, they will try again. Charlie and Stuart try to build a tower as tall as possible. Stuart, we finally got more than 10 to stay on, shouts Charlie. A scientist has fun. Jeff and Teresa experiment with water. Let's see if we can fill up the tube through these holes, suggests Jeff. Ooh, a scientist is a person who... Friends, while we learn about what a scientist does, I want you to think about what you do. You do a lot of these things in our classroom. So I think you are all scientists. Let's read this story to find out if you are a scientist. A scientist is a person who asks questions. We ask questions. Learns from her senses. We use our senses. Notices details. Writes. We write. Draws. We draw. Measures. We measure in our class. Counts. We know how to count. Sorts. We know how to sort. Tests predictions. We make predictions. Experiments. Thinks logically. Keeps trying. We always try my best. And has fun. We have fun in school too. That's what a scientist is. And friends, you are all scientists because you do all of these things. The end. If you liked my book, clap once. If you liked my book, clap twice. 3, 2, 1. That book was fun.